Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Mia Lueth. It is December 20th, 2024. It is 8:53 a.m. Eastern Time, New York, USA. And I usually don't do post-game reactions, Winnipeg Jets style. I usually just jump on post-game, interviews and some of the post-game, what do you call it? Uh, reactions chats. So sometimes it's a legal curve, sometimes it's Kenny and Rennie. So last night I jumped in with Kenny and Rennie post game, and that's Ken Wiebe and Sean Reynolds. And I did put the link to their post game reaction because there's some things that I, as a fan, like to say. Now I'm not just a fan. I mean, I love ice hockey, and anytime I get to watch an ice hockey game, I never take that for granted. Okay, I never take that for granted. So for me, what kind of fan am I? I'm the kind of fan that understands the game really, really well. I understand the National Hockey League, and I understand how difficult it is to win a Stanley Cup these days in the National Hockey League. There's no such thing as um, dynasty teams anymore. There's no such thing as a guaranteed Stanley Cup like with the Canadians for years on end. All that's gone. And even the people who were around for Jets 1.0, the game has it's stayed the same in some essential ways, but it has changed a lot, especially what kind of ice hockey product gets put on ice. So I'm put the link down here because I'm going to kind of like discuss some of the things now. Some of my comments showed up, but I'm telling you, as a knowledgeable person who watches other National Hockey League games, who listens to local press, national press in Canada, national press in the U.S., so on and so forth, right? And I have been quiet uh, online since the time that Jets 2.0 became a reality, that I've been listening and paying attention. And yes, I know I have these. Yeah, you know what this is? This is angular cheilitis. Okay. Some of us have to be on medications because I have it. Um, a couple of serious medical conditions. So, yes, angular cheilitis. Okay. So, if anybody didn't know, when you're right here, start getting chapped, okay, it's because I'll sometimes do this with my shirt. It's because moisture gets caught in there. And unfortunately, when I sleep, yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I drool a little, you know what I'm saying? Right. Okay, but there is such a thing as reality in the National Hockey League, is what I'm trying to tell you. And there are clubs right now who whose fans are all looking at their teams like, oh my God, it's just awful, it's terrible. And I gotta be honest with you. Okay, over the span of, we're just gonna say 40 years, I have seen much worse ice hockey on NHL ice. And since the 2004 2005 lockout, CBA and agreements, and some changes happening, from that point on, yes, I've seen some teams that you can just look at this time of year and say it, they wouldn't even make it in the playoffs. I mean, even if they managed to fight for a playoff spot somehow, uh, they wouldn't make it past the first round. There's no way, right? Some likely get taken at four. I mean, totally swept. Um, and that is not what I'm seeing when it comes to the Winnipeg Jets. And one of the things that Kenny, I think well, I'm not entirely sure whether it was Kenny or Rennie who said it, but one of the things that was discussed on that post game was, um, now I lost my thought. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. I'm trying to figure out. I think it was Kenny who said it. No, maybe it was Rennie. Anyway, yeah, I think it was Sean Reynolds. She said, maybe, we're not seeing what they're seeing, and maybe, they're just being, you know, I don't think he used the word Pollyanna, but maybe they're just being rose-colored glasses, or maybe they're, just trying to stay positive, or they're just looking at it and they know they're going down and they're just like not admitting it, and but I think the answer is actually the first thing. I think that the Winnipeg Jets, the guys inside the room, the guys who work for the club, well, some of them are females. Okay, right. The people who are very close to that club, and the people who are working, and the people who coach and train, and and the guys themselves, I think, right, they see some things, some of them definitely intangibles that a lot of the average everyday fan does not see or recognize or understand. I think that is the answer to that. So me, okay, I'm this is my background. I grew up a Washington Capitals fan because even though I lived a little closer to the Flyers, I started watching, live, going to AHL games, which I'm not even sure it was called the AHL, but anyway, because the city of Baltimore did have a semi-pro ice hockey club, but that got shut down, and I am, a goalie myself. I mean, that's for life, even if you don't see a net. But I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just my entire temperament. It's who I am. If there's a line to defend, I defend that line. Somebody puts me in front of a net, I'm getting the net. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's natural in me. And I am going to say, for those of you, just as a side note, any of you have like a little sports person in your household, young, and they seem to gravitate toward a certain sport with nets. And I am also including basketball in this. Okay, I'm including basketball in this too, even though they don't have an official air quote goalie position. They do have nets to defend. So what I'm going to say is, no matter the size, okay, I'm like five. I'm a little under 5'4", and I was very successful as a goaltender in more than one sport. But the reason why is my spatial reasoning skills are far above average. Okay. So, a goalie who's a foot taller than me, right, may be able to stand still and not have to challenge, or may be able to move to the right, or right. But me, I know how fast somebody's coming at me. I know where the particular angles are. I know like how to shut somebody off and force them to take a crap shot. Okay, so as a goalie, I'm saying, maybe you're watching the young ones, and they, right, the ones who have, that it's known that they have higher than average spatial reasoning skills. Give them a try in the nets. Just give them a try in the nets. Okay, because they may naturally gravitate to that. They may not, but give them a try in the nets. And basketball, yeah. I used to know the position. Like, there's so much going on with me because I have medical appointments and all kinds of things. So just forgive me. May not be as succinct and in the know right now when I'm saying, but it's not due to a lack of research. Got a lot on my mind. And but in basketball, I think it's like yeah, they have guard positions. Like I don't know, center guard, point guard. I'm not entirely sure, right? But it's the position that stays back near home net and tries to foil the opposing team and get in the way and block the shots. Right? That's basically your basketball goalie. So even basketball has a position that is like goaltender. Um, anyway, so being a Caps fan for that long, I'm gonna tell you, we went through we had to go through and save the franchise, and it came close twice having to do that. We had to go through at least 2 decades of crap ass ice hockey. Okay, we yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. I mean, in '97 or '99, I'm mixing up years, but it's around that time. The Washington Capitals finally made it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they stopped believing in themselves. They lost faith in their game, and they fucking tanked. And that was very disappointing. Okay. I am going to mention Edmonton. Edmonton is a Canadian ice hockey club, and I got to be honest with you. Okay, I'm asking people, do a little bit of thought and do a little. Don't be so reactionary straight out the gate. Like if you go look at the history of the club, of the Edmonton Oilers, and you check like what they were doing the year before they got Connor McDavid, I can tell you those people who were fans and those people who went through it and those people who had a part of it and those people who were paying attention can tell you they weren't playing so great, and they were definitely not cup contenders. But it was known to the fan base and everyone basically publicly that they were like doing a full like rebuild, and a part of that was Connor McDavid and then Ryan Nugent Hopkins. And those two talents were, meant to kind of like uplift the Oilers and get them into playoff contention, and then, eventually, of course, the Stanley Cup. But injuries, look what happened. I mean, have some, well studied, even keeled Oilers fans tell you, right? I mean, so the game last night, you know what, I was actually expecting a win, to be honest. And the reason why is, well, some teams do. They still do it. I mean, even veterans will do it sometimes. Look at a team and then see their standings and be like, well, okay, we can put some B guys in here. We don't really have to bust our hump and, blah, blah, blah. And then not take them seriously. And then, some teams take that opportunity. It's a game of opportunities. There are teams that will take that opportunity and, take them by surprise. Okay? I wasn't expecting a blowout either which way. Well, because we do have Connor Hellebuck, and also there are some, uh, of the skaters are definitely understanding of defensive responsibilities. Okay, now they have a lot more leeway with that, and they don't have to do certain things when Connor Hellebuck is in the net, as opposed to when Eric Comrie was in the net. And I do. Okay, I don't just defend all goalies simply because they're goalies. I mean, if I really see a goalie having a bad day on NHL ice, even if it's a Jets goalie, okay, I mean, I'll be honest and objective about these things because it can happen, even to MVPs and Vezina winners, and you can ask them. I mean, I've heard Henrik Lundqvist, Ole Kolzig, Nita Mackey. Some of these guys are retired, but yeah, I mean J.S. Shiger, Roder, Wah, um, a lot of goalies. Now a lot of them are retired, but even goalies who are in, Vasilevsky. I mean, I could go on and on, but I've heard them in interviews quite literally say, "Ooh, I just was, it was just some reason off game today," and it happens, man. Okay, so I did. I mean, I'm kind of like going back and forth with my thoughts today. I didn't write things down. I am going to start doing that, but I have to get into a rhythm too. You understand? Right. Um, and it's difficult because I also, unfortunately, we've had the stupid cancer battle come in and out of my life, and it's taken some family members and even pets. And it's been, bullying and harassing me for a while, and that's why I was like being optimistic and saying, "Look, I'm just going to say I'm in remission." Unfortunately, having some tests on, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna find out more because I have an endoscopy scheduled for December 24th. Um, and I did some testing this week to check for the areas from like the point where I swallow down to my lower intestine, upper intestine, right, to check some things. So now my endoscopy will be a little more, um, they will know. So they're not going in there blind, just taking random. They're going to know where to take tissue samples to test. Anyway, so I got a lot on my mind, and the holidays are a little harder for me because I'm only 53, and my entire family's deceased, and it's difficult. Okay, I mean, the last member of my immediate family. I mean, I really don't truly have aunts and uncles or any of right, none of that. So I try and keep myself sort of in a way distracted uh, from thinking about certain things, and so ice hockey definitely works for that. So does music sometimes. Yeah, just sometimes just doing little things around that I can do physically. Right. So yes, art therapy and music therapy has been a part of my life. Um, which I suggest for people who, sometimes talk therapy doesn't help, or sometimes finding, right, sometimes you just need that distraction for a little bit of time to kind of get you over starting to turn, that negative way. And then it can start weighing heavily, and then you can get seriously depressed. So anyway, I mean, I'm just suggesting that if you haven't tried those, maybe you should. Also, equine therapy. One, riding horses may help. Also, two, it's if anybody's ever been near a horse barn or a horse farm in the morning when it's very quiet, and the horses get rubbed down and cleaned and fed. That's a very peaceful time of day. So maybe you contact local horse farm, and you say, well, is it okay if I come and help you rub down the horses or feed them or take care of them in the morning? Like, can I? Because it's like being, you know, horses can be very calming. So, and also it's very nice just to quiet, just concentrating on just rubbing down the horse and just, what I'm saying, just giving them a little bit of food and walking them around and like cleaning out or, muck out their stall or whatever. It's very, very peaceful in the early mornings. and it can be very, very therapeutic. So anyway, I'm putting that out there too. I mean, I know from experience these things. But if I'm getting back to this game, like point blank, people, I've seen much, much worse in the last 10 years. Okay? I mean, I really have. Being honest here. Um, and nowadays in the National Hockey League, there's always like a group of teams in whichever division that seem to be kind of, like one day this team has the wild card spot, and then like a week later, this team has wild card. So this is that time of year when that kind of, battling. And so if you put too much stress and emphasis on the standing right now, okay, part of that, some of you claiming to be fans, just hear me out. I'm going to probably say things out loud that some of you aren't going to want to hear. Okay? But some of you making yourselves miserable. And as fans, what do you really have control of? I think some of you are angry because you don't have control of a lot of what happens on ice. What I'm going to say to the season ticket holders and the people, trust me. I mean, if I lived in Canada in Manitoba, I would be doing everything I could to, manage my health situation and, all these other things that I have to deal with on a daily basis that I cannot run away from. I mean, people with serious illnesses never really get vacations. But I mean, I would be trying to find ways to quite literally go to live games and, spend some money on merch and right, put tiny little contribution of capital, and that's paying for seats and tickets and things like that. I mean, I would. Okay, but I live in Maryland, and in the U.S. sometimes, when you can't work because you're the primary breadwinner, and things start going downhill, and then you have emergencies and all kinds of other stuff. When you get really sick, the sad fact is that, unless you were filthy rich in the first place, you're going to end up in poverty. And I, try and address that with, um, you know, politicians and decision makers, and you know what I'm trying to say. But so, and then, yeah, don't go to Dollar Tree anymore. It's not even Dollar Tree. Like those, I mean, those who know what a Dollar Tree is and been around, yeah, Dollar General probably going to have slightly better quality for decent, and also Walmart, and yeah, there's a couple other. Yeah, I mean, not only did they overrun me for some stuff, well, I'm trying to tell you also, some of this is just public service, but I'm telling you, I'm a real person. I am who I say I am. I'm not a robot. I'm not an AI. I don't get paid to make these statements. So just as an aside, I mentioned these things. But I really appreciated the way that Sean Reynolds immediately jumped in with last night's postgame and started talking about Eric Comrie, and some people were kind of wondering, like, what, because, okay, he's saying he got some, communication from some fans who just totally, dogging Comrie like he's the worst pile of shit goalie, and all this other stuff, and blah blah blah, and I'm just like, and so, right, and Sean said that he and Ken had discussed it, and what, they just really are sticking to what they thought and think, and is, Comrie did get left hung out to dry. I have seen this happen before in some NHL clubs, and the Washington Capitals is one of them, and the Winnipeg Jets was one of them, and I'm talking about 1.0, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. They know way better now. Yeah, I mean, the Lightning fans are very knowledgeable and understanding, and they are willing to, just keep cheering on their team. And, they know how to handle goalies much better. Some of that was trial and error, but they know how to handle goalies much better than I think maybe some other clubs. Okay? But point blank, okay, it was 3-2. I'm going to mention this. The way Sean said it, I agree with, because that is the actual fact and reality of what happened. Eric Comrie, doesn't have 60 game practice. He doesn't have live game practice. You understand? You have to kind of get in a rhythm. Who else was gonna play? Who? I mean, a lot of people, this, and it's just like you're not offering viable solutions. Like, a lot of fans are putting stuff out there, but they're not viable solutions in the now, in the national. Poisson was not a viable solution. And Mealy and Divvy, they're still in development. And there's no point in, putting ridiculous amount of pressure on goalies that are still developing. Okay? They're still working on things. They're still developing. Right. Okay? I mean, Eric Comrie stood up quite a bit, all things considered. And he had to play games that he had to play back, some back to back. He had to pull, carry a load. He was not used to carrying at all. But I want the people who talk and get online and chat, and you know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, who the fuck else was going to take the Nets? I mean, if you really want to go there, some of you might be like saying or thinking in your head, well, fuck Connor Hellebuck's health. He's not a team player. He should have just played. Like, what? Like, some of you need to sit and look at yourselves in the mirror for a while. Some of you need to sit and soul search. And some of you need to trust and understand that there are people who know better than you. And I'm one of them. So, who else was going to get the Nets for us? Right? Eric Comrie was the only choice. The only viable choice. And maybe if, Connor Hellebuck was in, he would have gotten a couple of those here and there. But some of those were on higher scoring goals, and we still would have lost, right? Eric Comrie did very well, all things considered. So when certain people started mentioning his stats, and I'm like, no. Screw Eric Comrie's stats right now, people. And by the way, goalie stats can deceive, and yes, some numbers do lie because y'all don't know how to interpret them properly. Okay? I can see intangibles, I can see where the Winnipeg Jets were not that bad. Okay? Like, you can't compare the Winnipeg Jets to, like, some of the, Oilers games that were happening in, right? Like, you can't say that some of these, like, yes, even, like, there are teams, and I'll just stick with Canadian teams right now. I mean, to be honest, despite any numbers or anything else, if you really take a good look at the Montreal Canadiens, okay, they're really playing inconsistent ice. I'm sure that, I mean, I've heard some Marty St. Louis and some others, like, but that's what happens when you're trying to teach, develop, and bring up really young guys. And it's to be expected in the National Hockey League. Your expectations are very often wrong, Jets fans. So I'm just going to keep on cheering on the fourth line. And go you, Mr. Nyquist. Like, come on, man. Show off for the kids. You're not going to get discouraged. You're not going to discourage them. They're not delusional. They know things that most of you don't, even the press that's really close to the team. I can see where really good hockey is happening. And last night vibed much different than any of the other games that I've watched. And so far, right, I've seen all of them. And I rewatched a few. And I mentioned on the Kenny and Rennie show, and I'm going to mention again, okay, anybody getting angry, fandom, or, anyone who doesn't work for the club, or who's like, outside that room and doesn't know what they're talking about and don't go to practice, listen, the only decent, reasonable, good reason for any ice hockey fan to get angry would be is if you're gambling and you're losing money. In which case, maybe you should ask for some help, to be truthful. Okay? Angry is not going to get your team to play better. Dogging everybody on the team is not going to get your team to play better. Acting like armchair GMs 24/7, like you got the fucking solution. No, you don't. You don't know. You don't know what the coaches know. You don't know what the scouts know. You don't know what Chevy knows. You don't know what the, people in his inner circle know. No, you don't. But I can see more and more a team that once starts clicking, okay, they're building for the playoffs. Okay, right. And that takes stamina. That takes perseverance. That takes, proper, minute management. And that takes long range and short range patience. Okay. Perfetti's trying. He's putting in an effort, everybody. Like, if I were seeing guys, dragging their sticks back to the bench, if I were seeing a sloppy bench, because I've seen that with the Washington Capitals. Okay. Well, I mean, I learned a lot about the National Hockey League. The issue with the Washington Capitals is, well, it will be known. I just refuse to support that. And it will be known. Some of it's already known. But it will be. I mean, it'll come out, and I won't support that because I know that human beings play in the National Hockey League. But you guys can call me Pollyanna and you can call me delusional, but I have not been wrong a lot of the times when it comes to the National Hockey League. And I've been listening and studying, and angry fans. Angry's not going to do a damn thing. Nothing. There's nothing that angry. It's going to get you nothing. Is what it's going to get. It's just going to make you miserable. So if you want to keep doing that, well, don't be blaming it on the Jets. Okay? So, when the building is quiet, Canada Life, Jets fans, okay? You don't sit there waiting for the team to produce a goal for you or do something you want to see on ice or blah blah blah. Okay? Get loud and cheer them on until they score a goal. Because you don't have control over what happens on ice, except for that. Now, see, I'm an ice hockey fan. I love ice hockey, and I've seen a lot of bad ice hockey. But I will still watch a game because it's ice hockey. What are the fans going to do? Like, think about this. If for some reason the Winnipeg Jets don't make the playoffs this year, are you, not going to renew your season tickets? Are you going to go root for a different team? I mean, what are you actually going to do, Jets fans? Okay? So, yeah, I'm rooting for the fourth line. And Nyquist is elevating. And if Chevy were to blow up the bench at this point, right, a little later on down the road, he would be considered the dumbest, most ridiculous general manager the sport has ever seen. So quit trolling the Winnipeg Jets. Find something more positive to do with your lives and listen to the people who are at this all day. So I did appreciate the fact that, right, immediately, Sean Reynolds jumped in and just spoke truth. Who the hell else was going to get the Nets? Comrie was the absolute one right choice because there just wasn't any other viable choice. And Hellebuyck came back sooner than we thought. So what are you saying? Okay, like I don't give a shit. Like at that point in time, like all things considered, given the situation, who gives a shit about Comrie's numbers right the fuck now? Okay, these people are not robots. They're not chess pieces. They're not widgets. They're not gadgets. And some of you are, making yourselves miserable. And I'm saying to you, well, have a seat. And at least consider what I'm saying. Because I've seen much, much worse ice hockey. I've seen teams that barely get along. I've seen benches where dudes will literally yell at each other on the bench like they're going to get in a fight. I've seen some locker rooms through press and other kind of things who just absolutely, they're just they don't give a fuck about what the coach is saying. Like almost every single dude in that room is, not paying any fucking attention to the head coach. I've seen it. I know it. I tell you no lies. I'm very objective. Okay? A couple of the high sticking penalties that happened in the last couple of games, in one case, one of ours, right, he was trying to catch his balance, and anybody would have done it. Rookie Schmelty or, senior grizzled vet, because it's just a natural instinct to catch your balance. You understand? Okay? Admittedly, Luke Shen has been kind of a little unfortunate. Bad penalties at poor timing. Okay. Well, that's why I'm saying use the force, Luke. And then some of you just think you can just oh, well, I like these guys from the Moose. How about we just put them up there? And like, that's not even possible. A coach has responsibility, right? There is only so many people you can have on that roster. The situation is much more tactical and complicated than a lot of you understand, apparently. And you know what? If you really, really are struggling and having a hard time and blah blah blah, then maybe ice hockey is not your thing. Maybe you just find something that makes you happier. Because I can tell you, I need you guys, Canadians, especially you guys, Winnipeggers, like Jets faithful. Listen to me. I I can clearly see some of the reasons why Canadian ice hockey clubs have been unable to win Stanley Cups for decades. Matt Jaime, I like Matt. Matt and Waiters. If anybody's like into the chat thing, yeah. Well, I mean, they have a decent sense of humor, but one of the things that he put out was where well the fans deserve better, and I'm like, well, who the fuck are you, Mister High and fucking Mighty? I mean, what if the Predators fans deserve better? You think that everyone here is deserving and elite over every other fan in the National fucking Hockey League? Hi, this is the National Hockey League, and there's no such thing as dynasties anymore. And I know for sure at 100% because I've been following a bunch of different clubs. I mean, I wasn't just following the Caps. Like, yes, the expansion teams that came in while I was alive. Yeah, those two. And what I'm going to tell you is point blank, I've seen much worse ice hockey. And this is the time of year where injuries start happening, where, right? But, I mean, if Chevy were to blow up the bench right now, I would personally like be sending letters and emails and every other thing to True North and be like, "You better fire that motherfucker because that's the dumbest goddamn move I've seen the GM make in years." Okay, just stop. If you love the fact that you have a National Hockey League team in your town and you don't want it to go away again, and you want your team to battle to get that wild card spot. Well, how about you help them out and cheer them on a little more? And how about you get louder in the building? Okay, don't wait for them to score. Right? Cheer them on until they do score. And then keep cheering them on until they score again. And by the way, right, they haven't been scored on a shorty in quite a few games. The other team does factor. I mean, that's the case in every single fucking game. They're not out there by themselves. Okay, I saw some. I saw some comments that said, oh, well, you can't, give them two goals in the first period and expect them. Like, what the fuck? They didn't just give them the goals. Like, hey, we're gonna lie down. You guys score. Like, what the hell are you people talking about? Stop. Listen to yourselves. I would just keep going. And you can hate me and you can ignore me, but I have been right about a lot of shit that happens in the National fucking Hockey League. And there are people who either have played, or work for the AHL or NHL who actually have listened to me. And it's very difficult to actually truly, based on the reality of all things in the National Hockey League, prove me wrong. So, yes, okay, during that time, fuck Congress members. Who the hell else was going to get the fucking name? Basant was injured, dipshits. Maybe he didn't want to come back just for play for 4 games. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Think about some of the stuff, because if you guys are trying to like tear down the actual dudes who go on ice every night, you will fail miserably. I can see a playoff team forming very quickly, and there it was much closer than a lot of people thought it would be last night, and there was better communication, and this game vibed differently. And I highly doubt that the Avalanche just kind of, I'm sure the Avalanche probably, maybe there was some ambled into like, this is going to be easy, we don't have to try. Yeah, but then they picked up the pace and started realizing, oh shit, I know exactly what a team built for playoffs looks like. The one thing I will say is that really it's not a good idea for, clubs, coaches, GMs to say at the beginning of the season, yes, we're, going for the Cup. Okay, well, I mean, every fucking team should be doing that. It shouldn't be said out loud. Well, see, here's why. Because, right, people just automatically think, yeah, they deserve a cup because they get up in the morning and breathe air. Go Jets.